Through snow, rain, sleet, and hail, Duke students will stand in line for many hours, sometimes many days, to gain admission to watch Blue Devil basketball. And once the doors are open, it is madness as students race for the non-reserved seats. And here at Duke, it is the students who get the best seats in the house. And tonight, Duke University students will pay honor to 3 seniors playing their last game at home. John Smith, Quinn Snyder, and Danny Ferry, only the 4th player in Duke history to have his number retired. It is a stormy night in Durham, North Carolina. 6 to 10 inches of snow in the forecast. But it is a special night. North Carolina State, number 1 in the conference, is on campus in the snow to play Duke. The Blue Devils now playing its best basketball of the season. They won 6 in a row. In Raleigh last month, Duke's Danny Ferry missed the only game of his career, and North Carolina State won 88-73. Ala Abdanabi tried to take up the slack, scoring a career-high 24 points. But the Wolfpack, led by their sophomore wizard Chris Corchiani, were just too much. Corchiani set up his teammates. Corchiani stole the basketball. Corchiani and the entire Wolfpack team had a great night, winning easily. North Carolina State does have other ACC scalps on its belt, but Duke supporters insist that tonight, here at Duke, in Danny Ferry's last game, it will be different, much different.
Raycom Sports and Entertainment and JP Sports proudly present exclusive live coverage of Atlantic Coast Conference basketball from Cameron Indoor Stadium in Durham. The Duke Blue Devils take on the North Carolina State Wolfpack. This game is brought to you by Pepsi, Buick, First Union, Jefferson Pilot Insurance Company, U.S. Air, and by Natural Life.
North Carolina State and Duke. And Duke University has won 6 in a row. State leads the Atlantic Coast Conference. And Danny Ferry's number was retired a week ago. Jim Simpson, Dan Bonner, Jim Valvano, before coming here tonight, said, well, tonight they'll probably retire shoes and socks. They won't do that. But there's something even more important than Danny Ferry's last home game, and that is the ACC standings and what they mean.
Of course, North Carolina State is at the top of the standings, Jim, with 2 losses. North Carolina has 3, Duke has 4. This is a big game. State could pretty much sew it up with a win, while Duke climbs right back into the race with a win.
To spell it out for you, should State lose, they would be 8-3, along with North Carolina, and Duke would be 8-4, just a game back. But if State should win, they'd be 9-2, and that would be perhaps all she wrote in the conference regular season. And how big a deal is that, Dan, to win the regular season when the tournament still to follow?
Jim, of course, officially the ACC champion is the winner of the ACC tournament. But I think it's a matter of prestige, for one thing, to win the ACC regular season. And other than that, the ACC is such a strong conference that the regular season conference champion normally is going to get a real solid seed in the NCAA tournament. So there's a lot at stake here.
I can't believe we see some empty seats because this place is sold out.
There's a lot
but they're not
out there.
That's right. That's why they're not here. And we'll come back with the Mazda game plan in just a moment. But now a word from our friends at Natural Light. It's time for the Mazda game plan, brought to you by Mazda Cars and Trucks, including the all-new Mazda MPV. And the game plans of Jim Valvano and Mike Krzyzewski. Just a casual ACC observer knows that these 2 teams play a different kind of basketball.
They play different styles, Jim. They emphasize different things. In basketball, the matchups are so important. Each team poses problems for the other team. For North Carolina State, they're really going to want to try to emphasize their perimeter game, led by their 2 great guards, Chris Corchiani and Rodney Monroe. Now, part of that game is the outside shooting of Rodney Monroe, the number 2 3-point scorer in the conference. However, when you're playing a perimeter game, you don't just have to score from outside. The perimeter guy, in this case Corchiani, penetrates and dishes off to Chucky Brown for an easy basket. When State can get into that perimeter kind of game, they're very dangerous.
I know you're talking offense, but a lot of Wolfpack fans are saying, wait a minute, Chucky Brown leads the conference in rebounding. That is so, but it is Duke with the big men who play inside.
Duke's style is much more oriented toward the inside, but it's based on their defense. Duke has played very well over the last 6 games, emphasizing a defensive style of play, really putting a lot of pressure on the ball, getting a steal and getting an easy basket right here. They've shot the ball very well recently, Jim, because they've been able to get shots like that. And of course, Duke is going to emphasize Danny Ferry, both inside and out. Ferry, an excellent passer. In this case, Bricky cuts to the basket. His teammates are going to have to do that. Whichever team can impose its style on the other is probably going to win the game.
That's our Mazda game plan. We'll be back with the starting lineups in just a moment. For the introductions, let's go to the PA announcer, Dr. Art Chandler.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The starting lineups for tonight's game. First, for the Wolfpack of North Carolina State, starting at the guards, a 6'1" sophomore from Miami, Florida, number 13, Chris Corchiani. At the overguard at 6'3" and a sophomore from Hagerstown, Maryland, number 21, Rodney Monroe. At the center, and at 6'9" and a junior from Roxborough, North Carolina, number 32, Avi Lester. Starting at 1 forward, a 6'7" junior from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, number 22, Brian Howard. And at the other forward, a 6'8" senior from Leland, North Carolina, number 52, Chucky Brown. Coach for the Wolfpack, Mr. Jim Valvano. And now for your Blue Devils. A 6'3" senior from Mercer Island, Washington, number 14, Quinn Snyder. At 6'4" and a junior from University Park, Illinois, number 3, Phil Henderson. Standing 6'10" and a junior from Bloomfield, New Jersey, number 30, Ala Abdelnabi. At 6'7" and a senior from Fort Washington, Maryland, number 33, John Smith. And standing 6'10" and a senior from Bowie, Maryland, number 35, Danny Ferry. Your head coach, Mr. Mike Krzyzewski. Your officials for tonight, Messrs. Dick Paparo, Larry Limbo.
Our officials tonight, Dick Paparo, Larry Limbo, and Peter Pavia. And our matchups for tonight, well, that's the department for Dan Bonner.
Jim, there's going to be some interesting matchups simply because these teams really do have some contrasting individuals out there. Chris Corchiani leading the way, of course, at the point guard for North Carolina State. He's going to be an awfully difficult matchup for Quinn Snyder. Of course, whoever draws the short straw for the Wolfpack's got to go with Danny Ferry. And Avi Lester and Ala Abdelnabi could both be big keys to this game.
Overall, North Carolina State 18-5, but 8-2 leading the conference. Duke 20-4, 7 wins, and all 4 of their losses have been in the conference. Danny Ferry about to begin his last ever home game. Features a full-page article on the front page of the sports page this morning. But it is Abdelnabi who will step in against Leicester. And this ball game is underway, and it is controlled by Brian Howard of North Carolina State. And
Jim,
Corchiani, that man again, will run things from backcourt.
I noticed the Wolfpack has those fancy unitard uniforms on.
I recall they had them against Georgia Tech. We figure, oh, there's Corchiani loose at the side for the first basket of the night.
Duke started, of course, Jim, in the man-to-man defense, and we said what a tough matchup that would be for Quinn Snyder. Corchiani getting the back door early.
Anderson almost dragged that back foot, but did not, and so instead, it is turned over by John Smith as he traveled with the basketball. Monroe will put it into Corchiani, and that is Snyder on Corchiani.
Jim Valvano's teams, Jim, have had very good success at Cameron Indoor Stadium, winning 5 of 8 games they've played here under Coach B.
Ball is knocked out of bounds. Still belongs to Duke. They were in the air when they knocked it back inbound. Good alert defensive play there. That is Danny Ferry handling the ball on the far side.
That was tremendous hustle.
Abdelnabi, or rather Smith, and he gets it away and ties the game up.
That was a really nice shot by John Smith and a good idea by the Duke Blue Devils to go inside and attack Chucky Brown.
There's Chucky Brown taking his first shot, and there's the miss, and there's Ferry with the rebound. Chucky Brown, with all of those statistics for North Carolina State, a senior, will not be 21 until next week. Henderson for three, no good. Ferry follows after getting rebound, no good. And then Brian Howard comes down. Here's Corciani, but Snyder's back very quickly. And so Chris will kick it out. Monroe will try for the three, no good. Ferry, second rebound, and as many trips down the court.
Ferry got away with a push that time, Jim. He pushed Avi Lester out of the way and got that ball.
It is 2-all. Oh, underneath Henderson. Nice feed from Ferry. And Ferry is second in assists on the team. Corciani takes it in, but draws the foul. And that'll be on Quinn Snyder.
Corciani has superior quickness matched up against Quinn Snyder, and he just used that quickness that time to get around Snyder. Now, this is Duke's last basket. Danny Ferry, not only a great scorer, but a tremendous passer. That's really a very nice move by Henderson to get turned around and get that ball up on the board so quickly.
Corciani driving on Snyder again, getting, oh, that's a good play there, but Lester has the ball knocked away. Good play, Abdelnaby.
Jim, we talked about Duke's strength being inside, and they showed it right there. State executing the perimeter game well. Ferry throws that one away, but Abdelnaby on the previous defensive play blocking the shot.
It is 4-2 Duke. We've gone through 2 minutes and 12 seconds. Ferry simply threw it over the head of Abdelnaby, and that's tough to do when he's 6'10".
Really was one of those hot passes, Jim. Abdelnaby would have had a tough time catching that one.
Chucky Brown is hooked by Abdelnaby. Second team foul against Duke.
Abdelnaby really doesn't want to be fouling Chucky Brown that far from the basket.
You know, speaking of Chucky Brown, he fouled out against Clemson. That's the first time in 118 collegiate games that he had fouled out. And here's a man who leads in rebounding.
Duke playing that man-to-man defense, trying to get some pressure on the ball.
Lester underneath, up, Howard tries, and the foul is on the man on the floor. And I believe that is Abdelnaby getting up with his second personal foul in seconds.
When we talk about North Carolina State and their penetrating ability to the basket, normally the person we're talking about is not Avi Lester. I can't tell whether he was shooting that ball and shot an air ball or passing it to Chucky Brown, but either way, it's a foul on Abdelnaby, so he'll have to come out.
And Christian Leitner, the freshman, comes in, another 6'10". And here's Chucky Brown at the line, where he is about a 65% free throw shooter. Duke fans are terrific, but it didn't work there on Chucky Brown.
Jim, I honestly believe that if you're at the free throw line concentrating on what you're supposed to be doing, you should neither hear nor see any of that.
For many, that is possible, but for others, it is not. Well, he got the roll each time, and the score is tied at 4 with 17:20 to go. Brown has 2, Corciani 2, Henderson 2, Smith 2 for Duke. Leitner, who just came in, kicking the ball out to Smith, who's a good three-point shooter. Corciani grabs that right out of the hand of Ferry, and Ferry's right there. So no foul.
What a smart play by both players. Corciani trying to draw the foul, Ferry refusing to be sucked in, and now Avi Lester is going to get called for pushing against Danny Ferry.
Pushing off, and that's the first team foul against State. Had good position only because he pushed off.
Notice Corciani goes right into Danny Ferry. He's trying to get Ferry to run over him and get called for the foul. Ferry refuses to go for it. Corciani tries a couple more seconds and then gives up. A very smart play by each player.
We are tied at 4. Henderson and Snyder, who's got the ball now, started every game this year for Duke. Snyder gets the ball to Henderson. He misses. Ball is kicked out to Corciani. And he will slow things down. And he walks with the ball, trying to get the ball over to Brian Howard.
And he got popped in the nose for his efforts right there, Jim. The last couple of times, North Carolina State has been playing a box-and-one defense. As we get a look right here, Quinn Snyder reaches in, hits him across the nose. Corciani saying that's why he walked. But Duke, the last couple times, was playing a box-and-one against Ferry. Now they're in a straight man-to-man. Let's see if Duke handles that any better.
Ferry driving, trying to get by Howard. Doesn't get by him, but shoots over him. That puts Duke in front 6-4. That is Ferry's first basket.
It's tough for State to match up man-to-man against Duke because that leaves Danny Ferry free to operate. That box and one they were using may be more effective.
Monroe is going to be charged with walking, too. Took that little stutter step because right in front of him was Phil Henderson.
Jim Valvano has to be a little frustrated at this point. His team hasn't gotten out of the blocks very well. But the Duke defense has been very, very good. NC State now with 3 turnovers. Duke forces an average of more than 21 a game.
That's incredible when you think about it. There's a ball off the hand of Leitner, but he manages to hold on and get the basket, and they double the score at 8-4.
What a catch by the freshman. He had one hand tangled up with Brian Howard, but was able to catch the ball with the other one.
D'Amico up and getting ready to come in. And there's yet another turnover. D'Amico comes in. And it is Lester coming out. Bricky comes in, and Smith comes out for Duke. And time is called. 15:47 to go. It's 8-4. Duke leads North Carolina State here in Durham. And our word from our good friends at Natural Light.
The quality big people inside, and if North Carolina State can't stop the interior pass, it's going to be tough, but this is even tougher right there. That is a tremendous catch. Leitner had great position, but he only had one hand free. The other one was locked up with Brian Howard. Great pass by Snyder, but a tremendous catch by Leitner.
Chris Corchiani scored the first basket of the game, and that is the only field goal that North Carolina State has had in nearly 4.5 minutes of play. The other 2 points on Chucky Brown's 2 free throws. It's 8-4.
North Carolina State back to a diamond-and-one defense now.
Leitner, another good catch, and missed the ball, and he goes out of bounds and belongs to North Carolina State as it went off the hands of Christian Leitner.
Duke doing a nice job recognizing where the weakness in the defense is. Leitner just expected to get more pressure and didn't get the ball up strongly enough.
Last 3 times down court, State has turned it over.
See how North Carolina State is spread all the way around the perimeter. They really want to pull Duke out and create mismatches like that. Monroe against Ferry, and Monroe scores.
And that, of course, is Rodney's first score. It's 8-6. 5 minutes have gone by. Snyder loose for the moment when Ferry is being double-teamed. Henderson off the front of the rim, and Monroe with the rebound. They with a chance to tie or go ahead, and Monroe simply lost the handle on the ball. Nobody touched him. He just lost it. Snyder throws it right to Howard, and it's a 2-on-1 break. Corchiani and Brown put it up for the alley-oop, and Brown does it.
They're going to wave off the basket, Jim. They're going to call an offensive foul against Brown. This is a real good idea by Corchiani. Leitner, I don't think, even realizes Brown is back there. It is ruled that Leitner had established the position that Brown jumped over his back. Looked like a pretty good call.
6 turnovers now for North Carolina State. Remember, better than 21 a game average for the opponents of Duke.
Jim Valvano is not very happy about the call. Real break for Duke because Leitner didn't even realize that Brown was behind him.
Snyder's going to take the shot off the front of the rim. They're not shooting too well, and now the ball goes off the foot of Smith. Feeds the ball to Bricky. Smith, he can hit from there, and does.
He's Duke's best percentage three-point shooter, Jim.
11-6.
Here North Carolina State with the spread offense, really trying to use the skills of Corchiani and Monroe.
Corchiani, when he wants to, can go right by Quinn Snyder. Did there. Ferry tried to help out and drew a foul, his first. The 14th foul.
Brian Davis is going to get up and come off Mike Krzyzewski's bench, come in for Quinn Snyder.
Brian Davis, a freshman out of Bladensburg, Maryland. Krzyzewski's got Palmer out of Arlington, Virginia. Bergen out of Fairfax, Virginia. Smith out of Fort Washington, Maryland. Danny Fair out of Bowie, Maryland. It's all in the Washington, D.C. area that he does heavy recruiting. Corchiani, 83% free throw shooter, goes to the line. Kelsey Weems has checked in.
This gives North Carolina State an exceedingly quick lineup.
to 7, 13:50 to go. That's Weems and Howard and Monroe and Brown and Porciani. That's Brickey. But Davis, Henderson, Smith, and Ferry. For Duke. Ball is knocked away and out of bounds, but it went off the knee of Rodney Monroe.
Jim, from the camera angle that we had right there, you can clearly see the North Carolina State defense. Brian Howard was matched up against Ferry man-to-man. Everybody else playing zone. It's Weems matched up against Ferry.
There is Ferry shooting over Weems. And Danny Ferry now has 4 points. His average nearly 23 points a game. 6-point lead for Duke. Porciani misses at the other end.
Good defensive pressure by the Blue Devils.
Henderson's going to take it all the way and misses, and there's Chucky Brown, conference's leading rebounder, getting another one. Porciani picked up very quickly by Brian Davis.
If you're Duke, you're going to want to find Porciani and pick him up.
Oh, somebody, I don't know which one, but Rodney Monroe was hammered. 2 men on him, and let's see whom they called it on.
Foul's going to be called against Robert Brickey, and that's the kind of pressure that North Carolina State can put on you. If you get the ball, get Porciani to give up the ball, then it's going to Rodney Monroe, and he has great penetrating ability too.
North Carolina State, 2 of 7 so far, and even Duke, which leads by 6, less than 50%. Monroe at the line, hitting 75%. He'll get 2 shots.
Jim, when you play a perimeter-style game like North Carolina State does, one thing you have to do is shoot the ball well. And State thus far has not shot it well from the field or from the free throw line.
They're now 3 of 5 from the free throw line. And it's 13-8.
And the more free throws you miss, if you're the Wolfpack, the more you encourage the Duke students.
Kubek is now in 22. He's been hot this last 6-game streak. Brickey shooting from the side, no good. Rebound there, Rodney Monroe.
Boy, Duke's going to have to make that shot. That's a wide open shot against that defense.
Bugliotta is now in. A feed, no good there. Tried a side bounce pass, and now, well, there's a foul going to be called against Kelsey Weems as Davis was on his way to the basket.
Jim, one way to beat a defense is to beat it down the court, and by forcing turnovers, the Duke defense gives the Blue Devils the opportunity to do just that. Weems, reacting to the good pass by Brickey, fouls Davis.
Brian Davis, not a good free throw shooter, so going on the basis of what we've seen tonight, he'll probably make them. Because those who are very good have been missing them. He'll get 2. Well, there's one. He's only a 51% free throw shooter. And again, it is a 6-point lead at 14-8.
Davis' playing time has really picked up during this Duke winning streak. He's been a big factor. Has really helped Mike Krzyzewski off the bench.
That's the biggest lead. 7-point lead for Duke. Kelsey Weems all the way in. Left hands it. No good. Brown is in the big battle for it, and it's taken away by the freshman, Brian Davis.
Kubek got beat, but he got some help from his teammates.
There's Ferry, and it looked as though Weems had him. That's the second on Kelsey, and he's only been in there a few minutes.
This is something Jim Valvano really likes to do, and that is put a smaller man on a big guy inside in one of these trick defenses. But Ferry moves so well without the ball. If he's going to catch it there, there's simply nothing Weems can do but foul. And there Brian Davis walks.
Davis did not realize it. He's still saying, what happened?
Mike Krzyzewski saying that the 2 officials closer to the play should have made the call rather than the official across the court. But I thought it was clearly a walk. A very good call by Larry Limbo.
Nearly 8 minutes have gone by, and State has 2 field goals. 2 only. Foul here, and this is going to be on Snyder, and that'll be his second.
The foul problems starting to add up for Duke. 2 fouls now on Quinn Snyder, and he's really an important cog in that Duke machine.
Davis is out, and Henderson is in. And Porciani, remember, is 1 for 2 from the line. He's got 3 points. He's got 3. Monroe's got 3. The other 2, Chucky Brown from the free throw line. 16 fouls now on Duke, 4 North Carolina State.
State's been drawing a lot of fouls with that penetrating, Jim. They really have shown here early in the ball game that they are a quicker team than Duke.
From both, and it is 15-10. And here comes Duke. Let's see, there's been 2, 4, 6, 8 field goals total in the first 8 minutes of play. And there's a little walk there by Henderson. How many times have you seen this many traveling violations in the first 8 minutes of an ACC basketball game? Very seldom, at least this season. Been a turnover Duke.
Been a pretty sloppy game. 12 turnovers thus far, Jim. And credit to North Carolina State defense with that particular turnover. They dropped off Phil Henderson, and he had to make a decision. He wanted to make a pass and realized, hey, I'm open. I'm going to shoot the ball.
L.C. Weems in backcourt. Weems with that speed tries to get it in there, but it goes off the knee or ankle of one of the Duke men and out of bounds. And time has been called. 11:49 have still remain on the clock, and Duke is out in front. They've led by as much as 7. It's 15-10. Stay tuned for Holly Farms Player of the Game Awards, brought to you by Holly Farms, America's #1 brand of fresh chicken. 15-10, Duke leads North Carolina State. 11:49 to go to first half in snowy Durham, North Carolina. Duke University, this is their last home game. We've told you that. As you take a look at this, Duke's Danny Ferry, only player in the ACC history, scored at least 1,800 career points, grabbed at least 900 rebounds, 450 assists.
Kelsey Weems scoring the bucket there on the inbounds pass.
And it's 15-12. Kubek, he's been hot, in and out. Chucky Brown, yet another rebound. There's Yenny, and that's Kubek on him. Hinnett is also now in. So it is Weems and Hinnett. And the feed to Brian Howard, it goes out of bounds, but up, it belongs to Duke. Started to say this is Duke's last home game. Sunday they play Arizona up at the Meadowlands, and then they've got to go to Clemson and go to UNC.
Corciani really giving Duke fits with the penetration. That ball was off Brian Howard. Good call by the officials. State stays in that diamond or box-and-one defense.
Henderson, no, and there is Weems with the rebound. North Carolina State goes home after tonight, plays Virginia, Maryland, and Wake Forest. Weems tries to get it up. There's a foul call. They got the Wake Forest on the road, but Virginia and Maryland at home, so it's quite a contrast of how these two teams finish up the season. Abdelnaby, with 2 personal fouls, comes in, and Snyder goes out. So that means Ferry is in there, Abdelnaby, Bricky, Kubek, and Henderson.
Once again, a pretty big lineup for Duke. And interestingly, we talked about the contrasting styles. North Carolina State's backcourt players have 10 of the 12 points, now 11 of the 13 points. Duke's inside players have 11 of their 15 points.
Well, there was a time, Dan, when it was 15-8. It is now 15-14. 6 straight for the Wolfpack, back in the game with 10:56 to go.
The North Carolina State quickness really bothering Duke at this point in the ball game. Duke would certainly help themselves if they could knock down some of these open jumpers.
Anderson driving the baseline, and good job there, Chucky Brown, and a hustle by Abdelnaby, but Corciani comes out of the whole thing with it.
Brian Howard got on the floor for State before Abdelnaby.
Look at Corciani, and a block is going to be called against Bricky.
And the fouls continue to add up against Duke. That's now 2 fouls against Robert Bricky. Quinn Snyder has 2 fouls. Nobody on Duke's team is quick enough to handle Corciani out there on the perimeter.
John Smith will come in, and let's see who comes out for Duke.
Corciani, just with that little hesitation move, blows right by Henderson. Bricky not able to get himself set in time.
And Bricky comes out of the game to get himself set on the bench. Corciani missed his first free throw and has since made 3 in a row. He's got 5 points. And can tie the game and then put him ahead if he makes both. So it is a tie game from 15-8. It is now 15-all. Larry Brown of San Antonio, the NBA. He played the ACC as an undergrad. Recently at Kansas, now in the pros. Scouting here. Sorry, Larry. Corciano's about 2 years away. 16-15. That's 8 straight points by State.
Danny Ferry's going to be available, though.
Oh, yeah. See that? Gets the ball in underneath. Abdelnabi, good play, allowed. His first basket. 17-16 Duke.
That's a good decision by Duke to go back to their power inside. And here's State with the floor spread wide on offense again to try to give Corchiani, Hinnett, and Weems room to maneuver.
Hinnett gets the ball up, no good, and there's Abdelnabi with the rebound. Might have been an ill-chosen shot there. 17-16.
That's putting it kindly, Jim.
Oh, tried for the interception there. Hinnett could not pull it off.
Very dangerous pass that Duke got away with. Really need to penetrate against the defense like this.
Ferry. That's old Danny Ferry right there. 6 points. Remember, the only game in his 4-year career he has missed was against this North Carolina State team in Raleigh late last month.
That's Danny Ferry's mom.
Danny Ferry's dad is worried about the bullets.
Notice Duke has gone to his zone defense now.
Weems does not get it, but knocks it back out and gets called for his 3rd personal foul with the effort. Tried to take it all the way in, shifted to the left hand. Did not come close, got a little upset, tried to knock the ball out, and got his 3rd personal foul, and Jim Valvano has a few words to say to him.
That's some foul trouble for North Carolina State. Weems has been very valuable coming off the bench. That'll hurt the Wolfpack to have him out of the ball game. I don't think North Carolina State has done a good job the last couple times down, Jim, recognizing that Duke switched to the zone defense.
Only 5 team fouls against State. Quinn Snyder is back in the ball game, bringing the ball up. On with his backcourt mate Henderson.
With Weems out of the ball game, Brian Howard now is going to guard Danny Ferry.
Henderson, that'll be short. Rodney Monroe is there. Ball knocked away. Smith comes down with it. And to Abdelnabi, the ball knocked away. Smith gets it again. Duke is going with the same 5 that started the game. Abdelnabi off the side of the backboard, and
foul's going to be against Avi Lester. And Jim, after North Carolina State went ahead in this game, that's now Lester's 2nd foul. Duke went down, and the last couple times down the court, they've gone inside. Ferry gets it inside to Abdelnabi, and that's where the Blue Devils have the Wolfpack overmatched. Lester gets called for the foul.
Abdelnabi, first time to the free throw line tonight.
This may end
7 out of 10.
This may end up, Jim, being a battle of seeing whose key players foul out first. An awful lot of fouls called in this ball game so far.
And a very low-scoring game, 19-16. Better than 11 minutes to go. Abdelnabi appears he's really got a little blood there, doesn't he?
You could see he had a cut on the underside of his chin. You could see how he could get that shaving, but it's hard to imagine how he gets that in a basketball game. So it's always good as a player. It always looks better after games to get some blood on your jersey.
North Carolina State had scored 8 in a row. Now Duke has scored 6 in a row and back to a 5-point lead after trailing 16-15.
Of course, talking of Abdelnabi, you'd always prefer that it be somebody else's blood on your jersey. Steps around, pushes it up and in. And Howard has his first points. He averages nearly 14 a game. 21-18, about 8 minutes to go. Well, Durham, it is snowing outside. And there's Ferry. And a foul is going to be called on Brian Howard, I believe. Jim, that was a perfect illustration of when to deliver the ball to a guy on the inside. Lots of times you see a guy like Danny Ferry working very hard against one of those junk defenses like North Carolina State is playing tonight. And if you watch Ferry all the time, when he's open, the guard doesn't see him and get him the ball. But that time, the second that he cut open, Quinn Snyder had the ball right in his hands.
Now, wait a minute. Jim Valvano and his staff probably worked very hard on this defensive setup, and you're calling a junk defense. Explain yourself.
Well, it's a junk defense in that it isn't a standard zone or a man-to-man. It's that diamond-in-one defense.
David Lee checks in, and let's see, it is Chucky Brown going out. Lee, a junior, 6'8", junior college transfer. Ferry, good free-throw shooter, now has 7 points.
And a defense like that can really frustrate a player no matter how good a player he is. And what we mean by teamwork is when teammates work as well together as he and Snyder just did there. That's a great effort to get those, to draw that foul and then convert the 2 free throws.
Again, a 5-point lead, Duke. 7:55 to go in the first half. A ball game that has seen a lot of turnovers and not much hot shooting, to be honest about it.
You see Duke matched up in a very widely spread 2-3 zone.
That's Monroe.
And what they've done with this zone is cut down on the Wolfpack penetration that was causing a lot of the foul problems.
Feed off, that's a good play there. Lee, it is blocked. Brought down by Lee. He misses the shot. It goes out of bounds off Lee and belongs to Duke. Two big shots under the basket. Missed them both. Good defensive pressure. Duke. The ball belongs to the Blue Devils.
Lee sort of shoots it twice off the underside of the rim. I think Ferry blocked it the first time, but this second time, the rim just gets in the way.
7:23 to go. 23-18 Duke, first half. Now a word from our good friends at Budweiser. Pregame Sports, Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions, and any rebroadcast, retransmission, unauthorized duplication, or reception of the broadcast without the express written permission of Pregame Sports, Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions is prohibited. 10 of the 18 points that State has have been from the free throw line. They've missed twice. Duke is 6 for 6 from the free throw line.
See, Danny Ferry, on his career, has not shot the ball very well against North Carolina State, but that's not the case tonight.
Jeff Henderson is free for the three-point try. Does not have it, and there's Rodney Monroe to get another rebound. Monroe has not been scoring tonight, only 3 points, but he was rebounding very well. Good rebounding guard. That's 4 rebounds for him.
Another great pass inside by Chris Corciani. It's no wonder when you watch the young man play.
Yeah, but look who it's on. Abdelnaby again. That's his third.
Look at that pass. That's just a tremendous pass. Number 3, as you mentioned, Jim, on Abdelnaby. But Duke is trying to set up that zone defense, and Corciani just knifes right through. Another, it looks better every time I see it. Lee, however, once again, has some trouble. The last time he shot the ball, he banged it off the bottom of the rim. That time he got it off the bottom of the backboard.
Well, he's only 5 for 15 from the free throw line, so naturally he's going to be one that's going to can him tonight. A 33 1/3% shooter before tonight. That's his first point. It's 23-19. Less than 7 minutes to go in the half. He went to El Camino Junior College. That will clang off the back, and Smith will back it down. Biggest lead by 7 for Duke. Then they fell behind by 1. Now they lead by 4. Leitner replace Abdelnaby. Snyder's going to try a three-pointer. No good at all. That's an air ball right to Monroe with the Smith rebound.
Corciani really active out on the point of that diamond, in the diamond and one. Duke's front court, their front court players have scored 19 of their 23 points, so it's obvious where Duke needs to go to have success.
If anybody's forgotten it, is Duke, that's held on to the #1 spot longer than anybody else, 9 weeks, but that was at the beginning of the season. There's Corciani passing back out to Monroe. Monroe's going to take a difficult shot. It is no good, and that's going to be a push-off there on Lee, pushing against Leitner.
Lee had the right idea. He was just a little too obvious about it out in the open, Jim. You can get away with that if there's a bunch of guys around you, but Lee is going to come into the bottom of your screen right now and start shoving Leitner around. And unfortunately, there's nobody there that he can hide behind. He just pushes him out right in front of the official.
And that is the 7th team foul. So Leitner, a 70% free throw shooter with a basket thus far tonight, goes to the foul line for 1 and 1.
And Jim, with Duke's advantage in terms of size, as you get a look at Leitner right there, the last thing NC State can afford is a game with a lot of rebounds. Leitner hits that one, but State's only shooting about 30% from the field right at the moment. Duke only about 40. So with Duke's size, the more rebounds there are, they're more likely to get them.
Remember, Duke is averaging better than 55% from the floor this season, and they're shooting barely 40 tonight. And there's Brickey. There's yet another walking violation. And a big turnover. They had a 5-point lead and do have a 5-point lead with a chance to expand it. Now State has a chance to draw close.
Jim, you're right about the walking violations. This almost, in terms of those kinds of violations, makes it look like an early season game.
Rather than about 10 days to go. 1 of 8 3-point shooting for Duke, and Monroe from way outside, no good, and Snyder there for the rebound. Here comes Duke again. Ferry steps around, good feed to Leitner. Terrific assist by Ferry.
You know, between Corciani and Ferry, you have 2 of the best passers you'd ever want to see in college basketball out on the court tonight. What great vision by Ferry to spot Leitner inside.
Monroe shooting a lot and not hitting, and there's Ferry with the rebound. Last couple of shots from Monroe have gone off the rim. There's Henderson. Phil's second basket, and that's the largest lead of the night, 28-19. And with that, Jim Valvano says that is enough. That is enough. 5:11 to go. Duke, down 16-15, has since scored 13 points to 3 points by North Carolina State. 5:11 to go. Well, they love it here at Cameron Indoor Stadium because their team leads by 9.
Carolina State has had a lot of success in this game when Corchiani has penetrated and kicked it back. That time Monroe just dribbles into a crowd. And when that happens, Duke is able to get out on the break. And even though this is not the classic fast break, Snyder loses control of the ball and bats it to Henderson, who makes a tough shot. It does allow Duke to run in transition. They don't have to play against the set Wolfpack defense.
5 minutes to go. State is down by 9. It's a wonder they're not down more. They've only hit on 4 of 17 shots for 24%. And there's the near steal by Snyder.
Duke has really done a good job in the zone defense.
Corchiani trying to make something happen. That is going to be kicked back out, and a foul is going to be called on Chucky Brown. And that is his second. We pointed out to you.
Jim Valvano has seen this game really go back and forth among the two, or between the two teams right here. And you see the go shooting in this game not as good as the game over in Raleigh. And I think, again, that favors Duke. They're the bigger, stronger team. But Duke doing a nice job here in this latest stretch of the game, cutting down that North Carolina State penetration. And as you've seen, when they're able to do that, then they're able to have success.
Ferry has 9 points so far, 5 rebounds so far, and we'll check on his assists in a while because he's got some of those too. And it is 30-19, 11-point lead with 4:44 left.
North Carolina State doesn't really have a lot of movement inside on the offense, and with Duke playing that zone and cutting down on the penetration, they don't have many options.
There's another shot. Howard barely grazed the net at the bottom. Never came close to the rim. Ferry steps around Monroe, and yes, Danny Ferry now has 12 points, and they lead by 13, 32-19. Brian Howard misses. And there's Leitner with the rebound, and he is fouled by Avi Lester. And the game is getting out of hand for North Carolina State. Third on Lester. Weems has 3.
Jim, the last few minutes, Duke has really imposed its style of play on North Carolina State. Corchiani once again is going to try to get Danny Ferry for the foul coming over the back. What an athletic move by Ferry to avoid him. Corchiani trying to punch it inside, State missing, and once again, the more they miss, the more that favors Duke, who's the bigger rebounding team.
Of the last 20 points scored in this game, Duke has 17, State has 3. Make it 18-3 in points now, 33-19.
Jim, in both regular season games a year ago between these two teams, North Carolina State erased double-digit deficits to come back and win the ball game.
Well, if they shoot halfway decent, they can get back in the ball game, but they come nowhere near the basket the last time down. State has missed its last 9 shots, as a matter of fact, and none of those have rolled in and out. They've just been shots that have had no chance.
And they have not been good shots, and Duke, a man-to-man defensive team, really doing a nice job in this matchup zone.
34-19, 15-point lead, Avi Lester. Howard. Seconds on the shot clock. The crowd is greedy in at Chucky Brown. Ball stripped by Leitner. Good defensive play by the freshman. Jim Snyder saying, slow down, guys. Henderson loose. No. Ball is kicked back out, and guess who's got it? Henderson. And the shot clock starts all over again with 3:20 left in the game clock. Ferry, he can hit from there too, and does. 3 points. 15 points, Danny Ferry. 37-19. Monroe has a shot blocked by Leitner. Ferry comes down with it. Henderson all the way, misses the shot, and is picked up by Corchiani.
Well, letting them play here, Jim.
Chucky Brown breaks the skein, and believe it or not, for Chucky Brown, that is his first basket of the evening. 37-21. Smith getting up for the Blue Devils to come in.
North Carolina State and Duke as well with that flurry of activity. Both teams look a little tired, Jim.
Henderson speeds underneath to Bricky. Good assist, Henderson.
North Carolina State looked like they were nailed to the floor on defense, Jim. Really looked tired. Good cut.
21.
Good cut by Henderson. Good pass to Bricky.
Oh, Chucky Brown goes up and comes down and then decides to go up again. And that's called walking in. I have not kept track of the traveling turnovers, but there have been 18 turnovers in the game, and I would assume the majority have been traveling.
And you have to credit this to pretty good defense. Bricky, the leading shot blocker on the Duke team, just disturbs that shot by Chucky Brown. He knows he's going to get it blocked. He tries to pull it down. That's a play that a lot of players try, but nobody ever gets away with.
We've got 2 minutes to go in the ball game's first half, and it's an 18-point lead for the Blue Devils, who have won 6 in a row, and they get Arizona on Sunday up at the Meadowlands. Trying to look for vengeful day after what Arizona does. Ferry again. Arizona did to them out at McHale Center in Tucson last year.
North Carolina State just getting no effort on defense at the moment, Jim.
Chucky Brown, yes, and no foul. 41-23. Officials timeout. That's 13-17 points for Ferry. He's within 5 points of his scoring average. He was the element missing from the Duke offense when they played North Carolina State over in Raleigh. Well, it's again, since we've got some time here, Duke winds up Arizona on Sunday at the Meadowlands at East Rutherford. Clemson at Clemson on Wednesday, and at North Carolina a week from Sunday. North Carolina State goes home to play Virginia Sunday, Maryland next Thursday, its final regular season game a week from Saturday at Wake Forest. 41-23. Ferry is 6 out of 7 from the field. If Larry Brown came only to see Ferry, his eyes must be bugging right out of his head right now. Well, I'm sure Larry has seen him play before.
Of course, Chucky Brown is a pretty good professional prospect himself, Jim.
He, as I said, won't be 21 until next week. Very young man. Look at Ferry, that angle. No good there, though, and Hinnant comes down with it.
North Carolina State in a man-to-man defense that time.
We've got 1 minute to go, and a long way to go. There's Hinnant shooting, no good. Tell you, they're just not good shots being taken there. Ferry with the rebound, or I should say with the ball. They've got 3-on-1. They kick it off to Kubek. His first basket, 20-point lead, 43-23.
When you miss on offense, Jim, and a team is going to get the ball out and run like Duke is doing, a team like North Carolina State simply can't set the defense, and Duke is just hammering them.
You only need to look at the scoreboard to know that. The shot clock is off. What State would like is a good-looking shot to show that they can shoot, because their shooting percentage is well below 30%. And they're 20 points down. Chucky Brown, that's not a great shot to have to take, but he got it. And a foul on the play.
And that foul is against Danny Ferry. So with 4 seconds left in the first half, he picks up foul number 2. Chucky Brown, a real fine offensive player, catches the ball there. That's a really tough shot. Ferry pushing him out. You can see Henderson gets his finger caught in the rim, or get caught in the net there. So sits down on Brian D'Amico. So Ferry going to come out of the game with 2 fouls.
There was some concern, and now they have credited Brown with the basket, as we thought. But at first they did not put it up. Now it's 43-25. 4 seconds to go. 3-point play here will make the State Wolfpack feel a bit better on the way to the locker room, but they have had a rough first half. And does not do it. And there's another foul called. And do they allow this basket? Or was it a head?
No, the basket is going to be good as well. Brian Howard.
That is. Smith.
And And Duke, which has dominated the first half, here down at the end, Brown missing the opportunity for the three-point play. That's a tough shot for anybody to rebound. Howard gets it in, so now State has an opportunity for another. And in the last 4 seconds, Jim, they have a chance to cut the lead from 20 to 15. This has been their best offense. Maybe he ought to miss.
Yeah. They've only had 8 field goals in the half. 43-28, and look, Davis is loose, and he misses it. The freshman misses it, but it's a 15-point lead. Since it was 16 to 15, Duke scored 28, and North Carolina State only 12. At the half, Duke 43, North Carolina State 28. And if Larry Brown is looking at Danny Ferry, he has, by my quick count, Dan, 13-17 points.
He's obviously played a very, very fine first half and against the defense that's designed to stop him. One of the keys to the half, however, has been the Duke defense. Duke, for one stretch of the game there, when North Carolina State was able to catch up, did not do a good job cutting down on the penetration. State was able to take the lead, but other than that one stretch, Duke has done an excellent job forcing North Carolina State into the kind of game that Duke wants to play, with the defense forcing bad shots, getting the rebounds, getting out and running, and getting some easy shots.
Shooting as poorly as State is, nearly, not all, but nearly half of their points have come from the free throw line. As we said, they only have 8 field goals. At the half, it's 43 for Duke, 28 for North Carolina State, and we'll come back to Durham and Cameron Indoor Stadium in a moment. And now here at halftime, the Mazda game plan, brought to you by Mazda Cars and Trucks, including the all-new Mazda MPV. At halftime, Dan Bunner, I think that you hit it right on the head. Number one, you talked a lot about the scoring, and I mentioned the 56% that Duke is shooting from the floor. Not like that tonight. But your biggest point was they have an inside game, and they play great defense. And that's what we've seen in the poor shooting of North Carolina State.
Under Mike Krzyzewski, that's really been Duke's trademark, the great defensive play. And North Carolina State tonight has not shot the ball well, and I think the big reason has been the Duke defense. And not only have they used the defense to stop the Wolfpack, but their defense has created opportunities for themselves. North Carolina State has been able to penetrate that defense sometimes, but Duke, switching between a man-to-man and a matchup zone, have done a nice job. Here you'll get us an opportunity to see what we're talking about. Rodney Monroe takes a very tough shot, basically triple team. Danny Ferry with a good outlet pack, and now the Blue Devils are off to the races. Even though Quinn Snyder doesn't make a real good pass there, he loses the ball but bats it to Henderson. Duke doesn't have to play against the set defense, and when you get those kind of shots, then that really helps you out. And again, here's from another angle. This is the same play. Quinn Snyder batting the ball there. Pretty heads-up play by Quinn to get the ball to Henderson. And basically, that's what it's been for the Duke Blue Devils. They've been getting shots from point-blank range, while North Carolina State has been getting shots under heavy defensive pressure. Duke's forced a lot of turnovers in State. Again, a perimeter-oriented team is just tough to play when you're not shooting well.
But you know as well as I do, there are a lot of State fans out there saying, look, we're shooting less than 30%, whatever it is, and we'll have the statistics for you at the end of the half. We'll get better. But they not only have to get better, they have to solve that defense. Leitner, in the few moments he's been there, has made some great defensive plays. And, of course, Ferry has, and Brickey has. They all have. Henderson.
Duke's gotten contributions not only from their starters, but from the people coming off the bench. And I think your point is a good one, Jim. North Carolina State is down by 15 points at halftime, but they were down that far last year in the game they played at Cameron Indoor Stadium, and they came back and won the basketball game. So if State either not out of the game, if they can get their act straightened out a little bit, then I think that they really have an opportunity to get back in this one.
My question being, how do you coach your team at halftime, or what do you tell them at halftime, when that is a tenacious defense they've got to go out and play against?
Well, I think one thing that they have to do, I thought they backed off offensively a little bit in the first half, that Duke intimidated. Absolutely. I thought Duke, and Duke does that. They do that to a lot of teams. So I think they just have to, if they, meaning North Carolina State, they got to decide they're going to go out in the second half, stick their noses in there, play tougher offensively, get better shots, and I think that they are still in this ball game.
All right, that is our Mazda game plan, brought to you by Mazda. 43-28 is our score here at halftime. Look outside Duke Cameron Indoor Stadium, and you will find that it is snowing outside. We'll be back in a moment after these messages from your local ACC stations. To pick up your ballots and vote for your choice for the Pepsi MVP. Tonight's candidate, Robert Brickey of Duke. Brickey was a preseason All-ACC selection. At the moment, he has started 18 games thus far, but yet is the Blue Devils' second leading scorer. And against North Carolina State last month, he had 19 points and 11 rebounds. Our MVP candidate for the night, Robert Brickey of Duke. Remember, ballots are available at Pepsi Dive Pepsi displays, and we're announcing the fans' choice during the 1989 ACC tournament. Aside from our own game, which has Duke leading North Carolina State at the half by the score of 43-28. At one time, just 4 seconds before that half ended, it was 43-23. But State got some quick baskets and also a free throw. Look at this one, LaSalle. Florida State has been having it tough these past 7 days, Dan.
And LaSalle is a very good basketball team. One of the unknown stars in the country is Lionel Simmons, the great forward for the Explorers.
Some people put him about the top 3 in the country. West Virginia, they just keep on rolling along, 65-50. They've got a tough game coming up this weekend, and look what Michigan has done to Ohio State without Jay Burson.
Of course, that really hurts Ohio State to lose Burson. That's a big win for Michigan on the road.
Michigan, well, they thought they had it at Indiana and could not do it, but Indiana went out to Michigan State tonight and won by 11 over Judd Heathcote's group. That's our college basketball scoreboard for the night. And I guess the only big surprise there is LaSalle. Now, for a lot of people, it may be a surprise. LaSalle knocking off Florida State.
Well, LaSalle playing at home. Florida State's a good club, but again, LaSalle is an awfully good basketball team as well.
And our reminder to you that if you follow the fortunes of Duke and North Carolina State goes home against Virginia and Maryland, winds up on the road at Wake Forest. Duke's got to go up and play Arizona on Sunday afternoon, and they stay on the road, going down to Clemson, and a week from Sunday going over to Chapel Hill against North Carolina.
And those are 2 real tough ACC road games. Clemson has not been a very kind place to visitors this year, and Chapel Hill never is.
That is our Budweiser scoreboard, and we'll come back to Duke Indoor Stadium in a moment for the second half. Tuned for Holly Farms Player of the Game Awards, brought to you by Holly Farms, America's #1 brand of fresh chicken. Holly Farms will contribute $1,000 to the Atlantic Coast Conference, be distributed among the member institutions under conference approved plan. That's the Holly Farms Player of the Game, to be awarded near the conclusion of our broadcast from Durham here tonight. 43-28. Jim Simpson, Dan Bonner. The teams are on the floor, and Danny Ferry has quite a first half to his credit.
17 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and he didn't get them standing around being a spectator. Danny Ferry with the good pass. Then he sees the opening, and what good presence of mind to cut there in the middle. You notice how he gets the ball from his teammates when he's in good scoring position. That's an important part of his success, too. The people who are playing with him look for him at the proper time.
Well, brought to you by U.S. Air. Let's take a look at the halftime stats, and I'm looking forward to see those shooting percentages, especially, of course, of North Carolina State. 32%.
North Carolina State only shooting 32% from the field in the first half. The Duke Blue Devils, on the other hand, shooting 45%, so they brought that up a little bit. They were much less than that early in the half. North Carolina State, Duke both shooting well from the free throw line. An awful lot of free throws in this game, an awful lot of fouls. The three-point goals really have not been a factor, and I think that's a stat in the favor of Duke. North Carolina State, much the better three-point shooting team. Duke with a slight rebounding advantage. You can see those 11 turnovers by North Carolina State. Individually, Chucky Brown started slowly, but he ended the first half with 8 points. Chris Corciani with 7, Brian Howard with 5. There's Danny Ferry with 17. And a big 7 points, Jim, as you mentioned, for Leitner, coming off the bench, doing a fine job in the first half.
And some great defense by Leitner. But this is an emotional night at Cameron Indoor Stadium with Snyder and Smith, and of course Danny Ferry playing their last home game. State beat Duke last time over at Raleigh when they did not have Danny Ferry for the only time in his 4 years here. State leads the Atlantic Coast Conference. If Duke can win tonight, they'll be within a game and a week to play. A lot of things at stake. And for North Carolina State, they've got a 15-point deficit to overcome just to tie.
Jim, as you mentioned, North Carolina State had a 20-point deficit with 4 seconds left in the half, but in that last 4 seconds, They had their most productive offensive series as they scored 5 points and cut that deficit down to the 15 where it is now.
Andy Ferry will inbound the ball. 20 minutes of play in the 1988-89 season for Duke at home remain to be played. Snyder into Abdelnaby, and that's a shot that is a foul on Avi Lester, and by my count, that's number 4. And he got that in the first 9 seconds of the second half.
Jim, Duke didn't waste a whole lot of time.
There's some water leaking from the roof across the court from us, and every once in a while they have to go out and stop the game and wipe it up. And of course it is snowing outside, and they put out a warning to the crowd here at the Cameron Indoor Stadium to drive carefully on the way home because the roads are icy. Last time we saw North Carolina State was last Saturday when they barely made it after leaving Friday to get to Atlanta because of icing conditions. Delayed the game. They got on a bus to get to the stadium late and then fell in behind a funeral procession and were held up even more.
That's really a tale of woe. Duke in man-to-man defense.
44-28. That's Monroe. He had more rebounds than Chucky Brown in the first half. But that's not really his role. Monroe in the first half only had 3 points. Chucky Brown takes the shot.
Boy, and
Brown now has 10 points.
What a circus shot by Chucky Brown. Duke, real good man-to-man defense. That's an awfully tough shot.
Well, if you're counting, they've cut 1 point off the Duke lead. It's 44-30.
North Carolina State still stays with that diamond-in-one defense against Danny Ferry.
It's Abdelnaby.
He walked.
He walked again. And that was an obvious walk. He is upset about it, but that, again, was an obvious traveling foul against one of the players on the court. We've had so many so far.
This is a very dangerous play for Avi Lester. He's got 4 fouls. Abdelnaby powering his way to the basket. Lester with a little hip there, but Abdelnaby was ruled to have walked.
Gianni will throw it in.
Mike Krzyzewski is complaining to the officials. You can see right there he's saying that Jim Valvano made that call.
Ryan Howard, a feed to Lester. Big strong move there by Lester, but it is no good, and Monroe comes down with yet another rebound. That's the second on his half, and then he gets the basket. And that's 5 points for Monroe, and it's a 12-point lead with 18:40 to go. This ball game is not over. Some might have thought so. Monroe's got 6 rebounds, 2 in this half.
North Carolina State has to feel pretty good at being down only 12 with the kind of game Monroe's had so far and with how poorly they've shot the ball.
Snyder loose for the 3. Yes.
That's something that Duke did not get in the first half from Quinn Snyder.
That's the first points that Snyder has, period. Monroe driving. That should be good. It is not, but a block is called on the man on the floor, John Smith. And that will be his second.
Boy, Monroe showing you some quickness right there. He just goes right by Phil Henderson. Avi Lester screens Abdelnaby out of the play. Smith, you can see, leans in as he's trying to get in position to draw the charge. And Duke did have some problems in the first half early, trying to stop that North Carolina State penetration.
Leitner and Brickey come in, and Abdelnaby and Smith go to the sidelines. While Monroe is at the free throw line where he's 1 for 2 tonight. 3 points in this half, duplicating what he had in all of the first half. 6 for Monroe, 47-33. Point lead. Henderson, Ferry, Brickey, Leitner, and Snyder.
North Carolina State has changed defenses now, Jim. They're playing a triangle and 2. They're trying to guard Quinn Snyder outside with Porciani, Danny Ferry inside with Ryan Howard. The other 3 people playing a zone.
Three-point try, Henderson. They don't cover up. They didn't cover up on Snyder nor Henderson, and that's cost them 6 points in the half. Porciani kicks it out. 3-point try by Monroe, and he answers. And Monroe now has 7 points in this half. A 13-point lead, 17 and a half to go. Duke. Sorry, the with 17 points. There's 6 rebounds, couple of assists in the first half. Leans in and no good. Leans in against Howard. And then the ball is stripped right away from Brickey by Lester. Here's Monroe. Can't get it away. He almost walked. Be a tough shot if he takes that. And does not get it.
Boy, did Brickey get up for that rebound.
50-37. Leitner loose.
He walks.
Walking again. I'm not going to say it one more time. I've just not seen quite. You'd think they're outside on those icy streets they're talking about. They're slipping and sliding.
Just moving that pivot foot, trying to go before you put the ball on the deck. And Danny Ferry just got a technical foul called against him for something he said to official Peter Pavia. And that's not something you see very often. Danny Ferry usually with much better discipline than that.
Forciani will be the man stepping to the line where he's hit his last 5 in a row after missing his first.
And Mike Krzyzewski is not happy about that particular call.
Kelsey Weems with 3 personal fouls is about to come back into the ballgame for North Carolina State. Forciani is so mad with himself. Galvano's got his hands to his head, could not believe. Krzyzewski rooting his team on. Monroe will inbound it.
Now what Mike Krzyzewski was doing right there, Jim, and pounding the floor, that's the signal that Duke gives when they're going to really toughen up on defense. That gets the crowd into the ball game. Let's see what kind of a defensive series Duke can have. Man to man.
Forciani driving all the way, knocked away by Brickey. His second good defensive play in about a half a minute.
Brickey, the leading shot blocker. You can see here he's going to follow Forciani all the way. Real nice play by Brickey to block that shot. Here you get another look at it. Brickey hanging in the background. Forciani was a nice move. Now we're going to get a foul on Avi Lester, and he's out of the game.
Lester goes away with absolutely no points whatsoever in the ball game. The average is nearly 9. And Lester had no rebounds at all in the ball game, so he contributed very little on the stat sheet. And he's out of there.
He was down inside working for position, Jim, and really popped Leitner with an elbow.
And coming up, they come in as David Lee, the junior college transfer. Lester is finished. Indoor stadium for this year.
That's awfully early to take a seat with 16 minutes, 20 seconds left in the half.
Henderson goes up, but he's fouled by Forciani on the way up. That is Chris Forciani's first foul.
Henderson that time turning the tables on Chris Forciani. Forciani has been very successful this evening penetrating the Duke defense. This time Henderson penetrates past Monroe, draws the foul from Forciani coming to help out.
State got within 12, and now within 13. Forciani missed the front. Well, he missed a technical down at the other end, and now draws a foul at this end. And Henderson is at the line for the first time. He has a free-pointer in this half and a total of 7 points. Pretty good free throw shooter, better than 70%. 14-point lead, 15:59 to go. So they're right back where they started at the end of the half. A 15-point lead for Duke. 15:59 to go. It is Duke 52, North Carolina State 37. And now, a word from our good friends at Budweiser. With 16:20 to go, Avi Lester at 14 points, and Raleigh against the Blue Devils contributed no points and no rebounds in this game and fouled out.
It's one of those games you would prefer to forget about. You know he's going to get some ribbing from his teammates falling out. Less than 4 minutes gone in the second half.
Duke by 15. State's got the basketball. Lee is the replacement for Lester.
Henderson really working hard in the man-to-man defense against Monroe.
Monroe short on the shot, and Ferry's got the rebound. Snyder all the way. Bricky underneath. No, and over the back. Leitner almost pulled up a foul, but Lee came down with the... And now that is a charge against Porciani, his second foul. Both in this half.
Porciani has been doing a good job setting Quinn Snyder up for this play all night. Snyder anticipates the play pretty well that time to draw the foul.
As the second half began, Porciani and Snyder were exchanging pleasantries, and I mean pleasantries. They were not mad. They were talking to one another as the game was about to begin.
3-second violation.
Second, and then Bricky, isn't it?
Christian Leitner.
Leitner?
Yes. Chucky Brown, or Brian Howard, excuse me, doing a real nice job holding him in the lane.
Don't get out of here. 2 turnovers in this half for State, 4 for Duke, but they're holding on to the 15-point bulge that they had at the half. There's Chucky Brown. Well, they let him go. They backed off of him, and that's dangerous, although he misses there, and Henderson's got the ball. There's Snyder, State back on defense. Snyder's going to take it all the way off the glass, and yeah.
Boy, what a tough shot by Snyder.
54-37. State came within 12 and now find themselves 17 back. Monroe. And he's got the points. Rodney Monroe now in this half has 9 points for a total of 12.
That was a pretty tough shot. He beat Henderson, Jim, but Leitner at 6'11" came over there with his hands up to help out.
You just keep wondering, looking at that perimeter offense of North Carolina State, whatever happened to the 3-point play. Ferry over a good play, Brian Howard, but he cannot control the ball. Lee was the man on Ferry. Howard came over to help out and knocked the ball out of bounds.
Can't let Danny Ferry just dribble around inside. Good play by Brian Howard to come over and help. Here Ferry's just setting Lee up. You can see Howard hovering in the background, times it very well, knocks it out of bounds.
Weems and Hinnant have come in with Lee and Corciani.
Watch Howard. Well, we're not going to get to see it there, but as Howard goes into the stands, it looks like he really gave a pretty good elbow to one of the Duke students.
And there's a reach in by Hinnant. Obvious there. Mickey Hinnant draws his first foul.
Bricky doing a nice job recognizing that he is really... He has an advantage down inside against Hinnant. Got real good position in there.
Way back early in the first half, it was 15-8 Duke. State caught them 16-15 ahead. The Wolfpack was, and since then it's been all Duke. Ball knocked away by Corciani there, picked up by Hinnant. Here's Weems. This is a piece of cake. And that's 6 points for Kelsey Weems, 54-41.
Something we haven't seen too very much of tonight, and that is those quick hands of Chris Corciani creating the steal.
Snyder slowing things down. The clock is up. Another steal attempt by Chucky Brown there, and the feed in underneath to Danny Ferry. And he is fouled, and the basket is good.
It looks like they're going to call the foul against Chucky Brown, Jim.
That's what it is.
North Carolina State once again switches defense. They're in a straight 2-3 zone that time. Another real good pass to Ferry, who just seems to know where that open position is. North Carolina State now with 6 team fouls in the half. Duke only has 1.
Ferry with 19 points at the line. And that's 20. 57-41, 13:40 to go. State looking for some way to get back in this ball game.
Those are his first points of the second half, Jim.
Gugliotta now in. He's got the ball now for State. Corciani splits the team there, and look at this tough thing by Lee. David Lee made that happen all on his own. He is a big man, 6'8", 221. It's 57-43.
That's really a tough shot by Corciani, trying to get it inside there. It looked like Duke was in that matchup zone again that gave State so much trouble in the first half.
Well, because of the Duke defenses, we have seen there's Bricky underneath, and he's got. We have seen so many shots that look like tough shots. They just seem like they're only just frustrated, and they take any kind of opening they can get. This is Weems. He's going to do everything himself, and he gets it. Kelsey Weems has had the last 2 baskets. It's 59-45.
You got 2 points for State that time, Jim, but you're right. If you dribble the ball and do it too much one-on-one, the rest of the team starts to stand around.
Lead to Danny Ferry. Underneath. Shot by Bricky, no good. Cocciani comes down with it. It is 3-on-2. Whoops. Hennett forgot something. Now he's got it the ball. He's loose. Puts it up. No good. And there's Smith with a rebound, and hit it, winds up on his back.
And Bricky just flattened him and sat down on top of him.
Weems knocks it away, and here's another one for Weems.
And North Carolina State is back to within 12, Jim.
With 12 minutes to go, and Ferry fell down and is walking with the ball. And that's a turnover. You
mentioned that the roof is leaking in a couple of places. There are some wet spots on the floor. North Carolina State using the defense to make a couple of runs. Mike Krzyzewski thinks there's some fouls out there.
Well, they were stuck at the 15 mark. They got down to 12, back to 15, but now it's 12 again. 12:03 to go. 59-47. Duke, second half.
Carolina State coming back in this ball game on the strength of some defensive play. Cocciani very nearly gets the steal that time, but Weems reaches around and knocks it away, and now Kelsey Weems is off to the races. North Carolina State would have a hard time shooting 32% with shots like that, and that's why they're back in the ball game.
Well, another reason is Duke has 7 turnovers compared to the Wolfpack's 2 in this half.
Jim, it's interesting. Duke's front court players have scored 41 points to only 18 by the North Carolina State front court players. The NC State backcourt scoring 29 to 18 by the Duke backcourt. So Duke's inside dominance still taking its toll on the Wolfpack.
Barry walked, remember, before the timeout. So the ball belongs to State. That's Monroe. There's Weems. Uh-oh, he lumped something behind. It's called a basketball. And then Weems, I think, reached in and committed his 4th personal foul.
Weems just seemed a little out of control, and Jim Valvano knows it. Weems has scored the last couple of baskets. He feels like he's going to do something fancy, and he dribbles it off his foot.
That's the 7th team foul. It's 1-on-1. Duke in this half has committed but 1 foul. Henderson is the man at the line. Let's see. Bill is 2 for 2 from the line and has a total of 9 points, including a 3-pointer in this half. (60-47). We've been talking about how tough a schedule Duke has. Probably the toughest schedule in the ACC over the final week. Others have had their share of tough schedules. Gugliotti fights for it underneath with D'Amico. D'Amico finally comes down with it. Here's Weems still in the ball game, feeding over to Monroe. Lots of time left in this ball game. 11:40. Gugliotti, and he feeds to the little man who wasn't there, but Howard comes over and gets it. And then Snyder knocks it out of bounds.
Oh, what defense!
He knocked it off Weems, and 12 belongs to Duke. Good play, Quinn Snyder.
Duke's been doing it with defense all night, and this is just a tremendous defensive play by Snyder. Not only does he knock the ball away, but what reaction to knock it off Weems and out of bounds.
Henderson driving the baseline.
And he's fouled.
Basket, of course, counts, and that will be foul on Gugliotti.
Henderson, I think, surprises Monroe right here. That little hesitation step drives right by. So he's turning the table. Monroe's beaten him a couple of times tonight. He returns the favor right there, and Duke suddenly is back up by 15.
Oh, back to the same old spot, according to State fans, and now they don't like this because it's 16 with 11:24 to go. 63-47.
Duke has been able to turn up the defensive heat whenever they've needed it tonight, Jim, to build and then maintain this lead.
There's D'Amico, and he has his first basket of the ball game.
They still have time to go inside and attack Danny Ferry. He's got 2 personal fouls. It wouldn't be the bad idea to see if maybe he couldn't get to it.
Can hit from there. 3 points. They let him alone on the Henderson, Snyder, and Smith 3-pointers in this half. There's been no one within 5 to 7 feet of them as they've taken the shots. 66-49. In underneath to Howard. He misses the shot. Ferry goes for it. Foul is called.
Looks like the foul is going to be against Brian Howard, grabbing onto Danny Ferry's arm.
That'll be his second.
And we mentioned a couple of times in the first half, Duke with the bigger lineup out there. North Carolina State had a pretty good shot, but they weren't able to convert.
Here we are, state permitted games, Virginia, Maryland at home, and then a week from Saturday, a week from this coming Saturday at Wake Forest. And then this Sunday, Duke has got Arizona at East Rutherford, New Jersey, then goes down to Clemson and over to North Carolina. Here is Ferry, quiet in his half, but with 20 points. He has not missed a free throw yet. He's 5 for 5.
Jim
and Brown checks in, and DeVico goes out. Weems has come out. And let's see who else is coming back in. Looks like Kenny Poston, a rarity since his knee injury of a year ago, is in the ballgame. A senior.
Of course, Jim Valvano really stuck with Avi Lester fouling out.
Ferry still has not missed. That's 6 in a row. And 21 points. And it's a 19-point lead, 68 to 49. Howard. In and out, and there's Smith for the rebound. State just not shooting well, and on top of that, and perhaps because of that, Duke is playing outstanding defense. Had a leg there up on his man Howard, and Brickey scores, and that's 6 points for him, and it's a 21-point game.
What a great entry pass by Smith there. Ferry with a steal as Porciani tries the real tough pass to Chucky Brown.
The Duke defense has State's offense looking not good at all.
And Duke can do that to you.
A lot of one-on-one play, a lot of chancy passes, all born of frustration. 9:35 to go, and of course the Blue Devils are just willing to use as much of that shot clock, which has 11 seconds to go on it before they get rid of the basketball.
You have a guy like Ferry, you can really milk that clock because then he can do things like that.
Incredible. That's the biggest lead. 23 points, 72 to 49. And even the most avid State fans must figure this is not meant to be, not this night. Chucky Brown, yes. And Brown now has 12 points.
Danny Ferry asking for a rest. Really working hard on both ends of the court.
Leitner is getting ready to come in. And there's a reach in by Monroe, and here comes Leitner. First on Monroe, but of course that will send the man to the free throw line. Leitner is coming in, and Ferry will get a rest and get a hand.
And he's really walking over like he's done a hard day's work.
Brickey comes out, and Kubek goes in.
Now, of course, we'll see Danny Ferry back in the ball game along with Brickey. This game's a long way from being over.
Anderson has hit 4 of 5 from the free throw line. Has 13 points. 9 in this half. 10 in this half.
Jim, over the winning streak that Duke has compiled of 6 games, now it looks like it very well may be 7. They've really turned up the defensive heat. I was one of those people who thought they just couldn't apply the defensive pressure anymore. But over the last 7 games, including tonight, they've done an absolutely great job on the defensive end of the court.
Howard off the front of the rim. Howard follows, has to feed the ball back out to Chucky Brown. Dangerous cross-court pass. Monroe puts it up. That's no good. Chucky Brown, and that's a good rebound and move by Brown. Got 6 points in this half and 14 for the night.
You can see what Danny Ferry means on the inside for the Duke Blue Devils. North Carolina State, that's the first time they've had multiple offensive rebounds tonight.
That's backcourt violation. The ball belongs to State.
Nice job by Snyder to get back there and pick up the ball.
8:17 left.
Ferry's going to come right back in the game. Mike Krzyzewski is also going to put Brickey back in. Even with the big lead, there's still 8 minutes and 17 seconds left to go in the ball game, and Mike Krzyzewski knows what an explosive club Jim Valvano has in North Carolina State.
Snyder is one of the 2 that comes out. Leitner's the other. There's Chucky Brown, and he is fouled by the man who just came in, Danny Ferry, and that'll be his 3rd.
Chucky Brown's really a good player down inside, and North Carolina State may be a little too late, but I think it's a real good idea to go attack Danny Ferry with Chucky Brown.
4:53. Danny Ferry, last home game. He has had his jersey retired, or one of only 4 men in Duke basketball history to have his jersey retired. Who are the others, you say? Well, they are Mike Kaminsky for one, and
Dick Grote is
another, and Johnny Dawkins is the third, aside from Danny Ferry. Brown, it's both of them. Chucky now has 8 points in this half and 16 in the ball game, and it's a 19-point game with 8 minutes and 5 seconds to go.
You know, it's really nice to see that the Duke students can entertain themselves at a game like this.
Well, they were in here, you know it as well as I do, more than 2 hours ahead of time. There's Bricky underneath, and the reason why they're in that soon, reaching in his two-back, is because it was snowing outside, very inclement weather, and the Duke official said, we can't make them stay out there to a certain
games, Jim. I think this is a pretty good illustration of how well the Blue Devils have played. The smallest margin of victory there is by 19 points. On average, they've won the games by a total of 26.
And strangely enough,
yes,
it is a 19-point difference right now, 74-55 with 7:52 to go. Tell you what, it is snowing and icy outside. It's a 19-point difference. It's almost 11 o'clock at night in the east, and the folks here aren't going anywhere. Chucky Brown walked. What did I say? He traveled? There they go again. That has been a commission of omission or something tonight so frequently.
You got to look at Jim Valvano, obviously a little frustrated. State is now going to try to apply some man-to-man pressure all over the court. They need to create some turnovers. Bricky and Chucky Brown really going at one another, and Bricky's going to get called for the foul. Let's see if they rule it an intentional foul. No, they didn't rule it an intentional foul, just a player control foul.
And that's only the 14th foul on Duke in this half.
Quinn Snyder trying to go around Chris Corchiani here. The action is on the inside as Chucky Brown and Robert Bricky match up out of your picture. You got a good view there of Corchiani and Snyder watching what appeared to be a prize fight.
Poston tried to get it into Chucky Brown. He and Ferry went for it. Ferry went down. Brown came up with the basketball. And 3-point try with Corchiani way short. And Poston underneath misses, but he stepped on the end line, I do believe, as he got the ball, and that's another turnover.
Yes, he did, Jim. And you got to give some credit to these young men and women who are out here with the towels, Jim, wiping up all the wet spots on the floor.
They've had the toughest job of any. They and Danny Ferry have worked harder than anybody else. Coming up on the 7-minute mark. 74-55. Ferry. That's a block call there. Chucky Brown says, who me? Now, Brown has 4 personal fouls. Remember, a couple of games ago at Clemson, he fouled out for the first time in 118 games. And here he is with 4 personal fouls tonight.
Well, you know, they say one streak usually follows another. You talk about the versatility of Danny Ferry. At 6'10", he can take a guy like Chucky Brown outside and beat him to the basket. You could see Brown very clearly shove Danny Ferry, which was the call.
That's 8 in a row for Ferry. And 25 points, 8 in a row from the free throw line. He also has 8 rebounds. Done just about everything. I think I recall him throwing the ball away once over Abdelnaby's head. Other than that, Ferry's just been about flew perfect. Corchiani lost the ball as he went through. It is Snyder that draws a foul. That's his third. 6:51 to go. Time all on the side of the Blue Devils, trying to win their 7th in a row, and it almost looked like a sure thing, unless you believe in miracles.
Jim, we've talked an awful lot about it being Danny Ferry's last home game. Of course, it's Quinn Snyder's as well, and Snyder has had a very tough matchup against Chris Corchiani all evening, and he has handled that matchup very, very well.
And John Smith in his final home game. Here's Monroe shooting from the side. No good. There's Smith, come to think of it. There's Ferry coming down with the rebound, taken away by Monroe. And he goes up and comes down again. He's walking.
That was not your classic basketball right there. The ball bouncing off people's head and bouncing off people's hands. Let's see what we have here. Is this a bounce pass when you bounce it off somebody's head?
Oh,
bingo.
still 76-55. Now, oh, look at this. Henderson all by himself, and Smith found him. 13 points in this half for Henderson. Howard tries one off the front of the rim. Torchiani goes up and puts it in. That's just his second basket. 78-57.
He's been averaging about 12 points a game here recently, Jim, so you really got to give Quinn Snyder some credit for a very fine defensive job tonight. Really, I think, keying the Duke defense.
They've now dropped below the 6-minute mark. Snyder, Monroe on him. Been a fine night for Thury in his final home game ever. John Smith just had that assist. He's got 2 3-pointers, and Quinn Snyder's been doing good work. Here's Torchiani, and he is trying to draw the foul, and does draw the foul by Henderson. And I think I heard the whistle before the basket.
We were talking about the young men and women who were trying to wipe up the floor. There's the ball girl.
Get out of the way.
Right for the camera, trying to get out of the way. And you're right, Jim. That foul was called before the shot.
So they'll toss the ball in high. Oh, yeah. We make a lot of stars here tonight. Look at that. Thoroughly flustered Weems took his eye off the ball because of Henderson's hands, hit his hands, and went out of bounds. Little things like that. Now, if that were a close ball game, that would be indeed a big play. As it is, it's just another turnover that North Carolina State has committed tonight. 19 altogether. Duke has 17. Duke, as we have said, is forced on an average of 21 turnovers by their opponents in each game. Bricky all the way in, and the foul is on the man on the floor, and that is Jamie Knox in the ball game for the first time, and he is up and limping a little, the freshman out of Vicksburg, Mississippi.
Bricky really going after that dunk. Bricky leads the Duke Blue Devils in dunks. He really likes the power dunk play. Looks like Hinnett is actually the guy who gets him from behind, but the foul is going to be called against Knox,
who is really still hobbling around. He banged his knee.
You get a look there at Mike Krzyzewski. And Duke, prior to this 6-game winning streak, now into its 7th game, they really weren't playing very well defensively. You really have to give some credit to Mike Krzyzewski for shaking up his team, changing his starting lineup, getting them to play with the kind of defensive effort that they've shown over this recent stretch of ball games.
Here's Bricky, who now has 7 points, but I remember the remarks, Dan, of Mike Krzyzewski when he was #1 for those 9 weeks. He said, we're not the best team in the country. We've won our games, but we're not playing like the best team in the country. We've got to get better, and here he is leading by 23 points over the ACC conference leader, North Carolina State, 80-57. And there's the man who just banged his knee, Jamie Knox, and he is fouled. And the basket counts. That was on Kubek.
This is not your classic jump shooting position right here. The leg is more like some sort of a dive there.
Knox is 6'7". He's very quick. He is a leaper. And he's a freshman, as we said, out of Vicksburg, Mississippi. 3 points, 80-60. 5:15 to go. So it looks as though Duke is going to wind up 1 game behind North Carolina and North Carolina State at the end of tonight's game, barring a 20-point comeback by the Wolfpack in the final 5 minutes. But Henderson is loose again, and again he is spotted. That's a good play by Hinnett, and then a good play by Henderson as he knocks the ball out of bounds. And I tell you that Jamie Knox is still favoring that knee. It's still snowing outside. They've been making all kinds of announcements inside about the icy roads, but nobody's leaving that we can see. Maybe they figure they can't go anywhere, Dan. Might as well stay. Here's Monroe, and he's got a 3-pointer. And that is his 2nd of the night. 12 points in this half for Rodney Monroe, 17 altogether. 80-63 with 4.5 minutes to go.
And when you have 3-point shooters like Rodney Monroe in the lineup, it's hard to figure that you're out of a ball game, even though you're this far down. Still plenty of time to go for North Carolina State. They really have to pick up the tempo defensively, though.
Another big winner tonight might be the weatherman who predicted 6 to 10 inches. It looks like he may be right.
break right there. I don't think Henderson saw John Smith. He thought the ball was going out of bounds. Could have very easily been a collision and a turnover.
They're counting down the shot clock, and Ferry usually hits when that's going on, but this time, no. And Bricky is there. The ball is knocked away by Jamie Knox.
Good play by
45 seconds again.
North Carolina State blocking an awful lot of shots here the last couple of possessions.
17-point lead now.
Duke has been trying to punch the ball inside the entire game, now content to play the offense almost at half court, interested in running as much time off the clock as possible.
Underneath, Bricky. It is no good, but he is fouled.
The foul's going to be against Mickey Hinnett, and Duke has attacked that matchup every time Hinnett's come in the game and tried to guard Bricky.
Bricky is 2 for 2 from the free throw line. Snyder back into the ball game. And Kubek takes a seat.
Bricky, though, only a 57% free throw shooter.
But he's 2 for 2 for the night.
You get some weird theories about this game.
I don't have any theories. It's just turning out that way tonight. Those who are good don't seem to be doing that well from a free throw line. And those who do not have the record, well, there's one. Now he's 2 for 3. Ball barely got there. They're still at the other end of the court. Each time they go on court, those ball girls or the people with the towels go to work. There apparently is a leak here. He misses both, and Chucky Brown comes down with the ball.
Well, you got to be careful in a situation like that those kids don't go out on the court when it really isn't necessary, because they are out there an awful lot and they could get hurt.
Well, 3, Hinnett misses, and there's Rodney Monroe, and Smith takes the ball right away from him.
Good position by John Smith.
Coming down to the 3-minute mark. Six seconds on the shot clock, and they want to take a lot more than that off of there before they put the ball up. Ferry loose, but doesn't take it. They're down to 10 seconds on the shot clock, and now the student body will begin to count it off. Henderson, no. Chucky Brown, yes, his second consecutive rebound.
Well, of course, the Duke students known for high SAT scores, so you figure they can count backwards from 10.
Monroe, and Smith gets the rebound. The cold shooting of State continues. Now, let's face it, in the final home game for Danny Ferry, John Smith, and Quinn Snyder, it has been a Duke night. But there looms ahead the tournament down in Atlanta. 2 minutes left. The thing is, the Blue Devils will have won their 7th and begin to play very well. It'll be interesting to see how they match up with Arizona and Sean Elliott and company on Sunday at East Rutherford.
That really ought to be a very good basketball game, Jim. Both Arizona and Duke playing real well at the moment.
Ricky was loose underneath, and
Snyder's hurt.
And Snyder is down and hurt. Let's see how bad it is.
Looks like it might just be a cramp. He's grabbing his calf there.
Well, he is down. He does not seem to be in real extreme pain. Grabbing, as you said, Dan, the left calf there could have cramped in. 1:39 left in this ball game. And Duke is out in front by the score 82-63. And we'll come back for the final moments of the game in Durham, snowy Durham, in a moment. But we're going to take a look. We're not going to go anywhere. We're going to stay here and watch what happened to Quinn Snyder.
Snyder penetrating down into the lane. Not really going to get a chance to see it there. You can see he starts hopping. That looks like what that is, a cramp. Snyder is up now.
Okay, Ferry and Snyder, 2 of the seniors, winding up their careers tonight. 1:39 to go, and again, 82-63, Duke leads. They go at Cole Fieldhouse, or I should say at Reynolds Coliseum, over in Raleigh. It was the State fans whooping it up because State won 88-73. Now it's Duke's turn. They're out in front, 82-63. Weems goes up. It's a jump ball, perfect defensive play, the game, and the ball still belongs to State at the moment. They're going to take Ferry out. Last time here, 26 points. Danny Ferry has wound up his home career with the Blue Devils of Duke. What a career. Another walk. Traveling call.
And Jim, I don't know how many times.
20, I'll bet you. At least 20 traveling violations tonight.
That's at least 4 times that somebody's jumped up in the air and come back down with the ball. You get a look there at Danny Ferry's mother.
Duke will be 21-4, 8-4 in the conference, a game behind North Carolina and North Carolina State. Davis goes up, a foul call, and North Carolina State will be 18-6 and 8-3, tied with Carolina in the ACC standing. Crawford Palmer comes in. Clay Buckley comes in. Long ago, Valvano used every man on his bench. And now Mike Krzyzewski, the game safely in hand, is using every man on his bench. 1:11 to go. Davis, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, back there again. He's a man who's got 3 years of eligibility left to play here at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Perfect from the line. 50% shooter, 4 for 4 tonight. 84-63, 1:10 to go. Knox had a chance for a three-pointer, didn't want to take it. Leitner gets the rebound. We're under a minute. Underneath, Buckley goes up, looks for the foul, didn't get it, and the game goes on. Clay. Here's Weems all the way in and missing. And Gugliotta and Kubek. It's a jump ball, and it belongs to Duke this time.
Basically just running out the clock right now, Jim.
They don't have to do another shot. Don't have to take one. Shot clock is off. 30 seconds to go. But Davis wants it and does not get it.
Oh, these are guys that don't play much, Jim. They're not going to hold the basketball. They're going to shoot it.
Here's Hinnett. Yes. Mickey Hinnett has his first basket of the evening. 20 seconds to go. A 19-point game. Out of bounds with 12 seconds to go. Our congratulations to Duke. And of course for North Carolina State, they're the big losers tonight, but they remain ahead the Atlantic Coast Conference Tournament, and they are still in a tie for the lead in the conference standings, along with North Carolina at 8-3. Crawford Palmer tries one. Palmer tries again. And Buckley goes up and gets his basket to go into the box score. They win by 21. Final score, big night by Danny Ferry. In his last home game, Duke is a game behind North Carolina and North Carolina State in the ACC standings. The final score, Duke 86 and North Carolina State 65. The Holly Farms players of the game tonight. Rodney Monroe for North Carolina State. He came with 12 points in the second half, 15 altogether. And he also led the team in rebounds. And Danny Ferry, enough said there, 26 points, a bundle of rebounds and assists and a steal at his last home game. And the Duke fans pour on the floor. You're watching those who have chosen to remain in the stands. But they're all trying to get just a piece, a pat of Danny Ferry as he leaves the court here for the last time after a game. Ferry on his way off. Mike Krzyzewski. They're within a game of the lead in the ACC. And there's the crowd on the floor. And there's Danny Ferry. And their cameras are down there. If they can find a microphone, we've got one. Maybe we can hear from Danny Ferry. Ron Morse is down there with him.
Danny, could you think of a better way to finish your career?
No, this was a great game, and you know, it was a team win. It just was so much fun. The students were great. Just the whole fans were great. I'm sorry to be gone, but I'm really proud to be from Duke.
Anything else to accomplish in the season?
Yeah, we got a lot to accomplish. Every game is another accomplishment. We're looking to Arizona now, on down the line.
Thank you very much, Danny. Back up to Jim Simpson now.
Thank you, Rod, and our congratulations to Danny Ferry. Our final score is 86-65. I'm Jim Simpson with Dan Bonner, and you've been watching exclusive coverage of ACC basketball on Raycom Sports and Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions.
7 games in a row, each by 19 points or more. The Devils make NC State their latest victim, 86-65, and here's Tom's report.
When it's senior night at Cameron Indoor Stadium, and add to that one of the seniors is a man named Danny Ferry, then no matter who the opposition, they can figure it might be a long night. No question, the Duke seniors and the Cameron crowd were pumped.
It's sad also, though, because, you know, I'm not going to get to experience this again. I mean, there's nothing else like it. Any level of basketball.
All the things you've been trying to put on the back burner all day, really all week, you know, the fact it was our last game, whatever, you know, it came to you in a rush. It's like, okay, now I can appreciate the moment.